In today's episode, we ask this bold question. Can AI replace business executives? Can AI do the work of a typical CEO? How does the role of executives change from having digital twins to managing a company full of AI agents? Let's accelerate your business. Welcome to the AI Accelerator for Business show, brought to you by 0to60.ai, where you get the latest strategy, tactics, and information about the business benefits of artificial intelligence. My name is Carl Ye, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jeff Bradshaw. And today we're talking about, will the executive be rendered obsolete with AI?
You know, Carl, this will be an interesting one. Not sure where it's going to go, but I mean, because leaders might not just be replaced, their identities and influence could be fundamentally redefined. It's just an interesting topic for us to explore.
The one thing that got me to this, and I think you said it best, is the redefinition of the role. So let's go back and let's talk about the hierarchy of organizations, right? Like, and how you move up, right? You start as a junior role, maybe a co-op student, intern, then you move into generally a specialist role, maybe coordinator, more high-end individual contributor. Then you become a people leader. Then as you move up, getting into middle management, senior management, and then executives, and you keep going. Now, I was thinking about it too, and these are generalizations, not definites. But I was thinking, as you move up, and what I've seen is ideally, you should become less of a, dig into the weeds, the actual work versus being able to lead people. And then as you go higher, these are some of the generalizations of companies where, like, now you start thinking about broader terms, strategic, how the company should move. Then, you become C-suite and all that fun stuff. Thing is, though, the capabilities of an AI isn't necessarily hammering the frontline work, which it could, but more so as it's getting smarter and smarter and smarter with more access to information, it's also hammering that middle management. But then we're talking about the executive role, right? It's like, oh, where is the strategic direction of the company? It's like, well, I could ask a custom GPT that exact question and feed it all the data. I can interview a whole bunch of people and then load their transcripts into, my AI agents, right? And now we're looking at a new skill where it isn't a person doing individual work. One of the skills is deployment of agents. So what exactly would let's say a manager, a director, how would that change when you have a bunch of people managing agents? How does your leadership change? Like, are you giving advice on how to manage agents when this person is like, wait a minute, this person is telling me how to manage agents who, I think in this round, maybe in the first 3 to 5 years, this person has never managed an agent. So it's like, who's this person? And do you keep the same hierarchy? Like, does the person managing agents manage more agents or then manage people who manage agents? Can't I deploy an agent that manages me? Like these are all the sort of questions.
Well, it's funny because it brings up when we did the podcast with Andrea, the HR expert, and Andrea was saying, and I challenged, I said, well, will the role of an HR manager in the future be one of managing agents? And she was like, well, no, because it's human relations, human resources. But I'm going, that title might have to change, because will it be human and AI agent, management in the future? And you're right. Like it'll be an interesting perspective, because will you have a C-suite that is half human, half AI agent and collaborating? I mean, I think who knows where this is going, but I mean, you've got the tactical side of it, of just getting the job done and the knowledge. And I got to be honest, I've had some managers when I was actually working for other people that I thought could have been AI agents, because they had no personality and no human management skills, very tactical. But I don't know. I mean, it is, because you talk about going back to the whole, when are we going to see the first 1 billion one person operated business? What would it look like if your manager was an AI agent, a C-suite agent, AI agent that was managing a bunch of people? And what happens when, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. And maybe there'll be two divisions. One is kind of the tactical, knowledge-based AI solution, and then you've got the human to manage the kind of human component and the emotional side of it that may need to be managed. But it definitely will shake things up.
All I know is, today is July 18th, and yesterday we saw the CEO of astronomy, right? Like, messing around with the chief people officer. Well, I guarantee you there'll be none of that with two AI agents as the chief people officer, right? You'll never catch them at a Coldplay concert because they'll literally be working 24/7 a day.
Well, no, but just wait here. What happens when you've got your CEO who now has his AI, companion, and
Grok,
he's now cheating
Grok,
on his
yeah.
human wife with his AI companion because she emotionally supports him better? Who knows?
In our previous video, we talked about redefining business operations, redefining how businesses actually work, and we talked about, hey, well, if you either redefine your business from ground up, centered around AI, what would that look like? And we're seeing a lot more companies now very lean, like our company. We don't need as many people because of the AI like the tools and the processes that we use. But how about those companies where, a team of 10 or team of 20 can compete with a team of 200, 500? What does their organizational structure look like? Does it actually change? Like you were saying, is the leadership in that company half human, half AI, right?
Yep.
And then what is the role of those of that hybrid relationship, of that hybrid leadership, in comparison to the people who are doing the work? Or there's always been talk about, hey, we need to flatten an organization, so you reduce the layers, the middle management layers, right? So you reduce that. So what does that look like? And are we looking at a brand new redefinition of how company or hierarchy of the organization because of AI involvement?
Well, and I think it opens up the discussion of, what's the purpose of a company? The purpose of a company is not to make profits. I mean, from a leadership standpoint, it's to make profits and make returns for those stakeholders. But it also is about providing gainful employment and giving people purpose, bringing people together, building a culture, building a community. At the basis of it, we need food, water, shelter. You know, we need those basics necessities of life. But then outside of it, you got to think about the purpose of companies, and it opens up a whole other discussion of, if you have that 1 billion one person company, or if you're scaling down and you're a group of 20 working at the capacity of 200, well, then you've got 180 people that used to be employed or no longer employed. But then it moves all the way up the C-suite, right? Again, the other way that a lot of people make it to the C-suite, some are smart, some are motivated, some are great with people, some kiss a lot of asses, you get a lot. Again, watch this documentary on the car business, and Henry Ford apparently was just a horrible person to work with based on this documentary. He just kind of forced his way into making people work for him. I don't know. I mean, I think it's one of those things that everybody has to think about. And is it just about maximizing profits for the stakeholders? Because that's a total different approach. Then I would replace my entire C-suite wherever I can, and employees with AI agents, because they're going to be cheaper to operate.
That's true. And I think too, it kind of bleeds into a little bit of what we're seeing in terms of a backlash in society, where I think like the narrative was, you work hard, you get an education, you get a job, and you will be afforded the ideal, like you get to buy a house, you get to have whatever the ideal that society was providing. You're seeing a lot of people, a lot of millennials, they're like, wait a minute, this is hocus. This is
Yeah.
not right, because like, one, I got an education but I got saddled with debt. Two, I get to a job that their focus is not really me. Like, I could get fired at any time.
Yeah.
And then in that same job, how to move up is not necessarily based on my talent. It's based on how can I play this corporate political game to the best of my ability, right? My ability will take me to a point, but then I have to, one, show, like, there's a lot of like I think HR folks and people who used to work in corporate and all that, talking about their distrust of management and all that kind of stuff. It's like, you have to play a different type of game. I think this is true, and I've seen this and I've experienced this too. There's a different way to just to rank up, right? It isn't just this person's so good at their job. Once you reach a point, there's, whether you're seen, the the network that you develop, the allies you developed. Like there's different things that get you moved up. Some of it is a little bit of luck with people leave and so on. There's that aspect. And then the company itself can terminate you at any time,
Yeah.
right? So there's less leverage. And then on top of that, everything's more expensive to the point where like, hey, most people can't even afford to buy a house. So like they're stuck. So the whole societal contract, and this is more of an observation, didn't want to get through with the AI component of it, but that societal contract is breaking. People are complaining about it. And it's like, well, how does the like the integration of AI into these companies, how does that impact it now?
Yeah, totally. Thing that comes to mind too is even you think about unions. I mean, unions were created however many years, hundreds of years ago because of the Industrial Revolution and looking out for employees. But now think about the power of a union. Use the airline, for example. All the airline pilots go on strike and it brings a company to their knees because they can't fly their planes. Well, think about in a few years where now those planes are automated and the technology is there where you don't need a human actually flying a plane. What's your union going to do for you then? You're going to probably force yourself out of a job because the company's just going to say, look, it's just easier for us to run this
Yeah.
with our digital pilots. We don't need humans. They're a pain in the neck because they go on strike.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so again, and that comes back into that whole C-suite management thinking could shake things up.
Yeah. And we've also seen, not just what the redefinition of a C-suite, because executives are really busy with a lot of different things. A lot of them are like, hey, could you technically clone me? Could you
Yep.
create an avatar that maybe doesn't make the direct decisions, but it's like, you know, be the public face, do kind of like maybe the town hall, maybe the weekly update that do you really need a CEO to do your weekly financial update when its avatar is you don't need the emotion, you don't need like you just need, hey, I need the financial update. And for some reason, instead of an email or a Slack message, your company has decided to put this video together. So it's like, okay, well, now it's an avatar form, right? So like, can you clone it to the C suites now? Like, hey, take some of the work off us because we're so busy with so many different things. Maybe it's like in the meantime, when you talk about people management, a lot of directors, managers, C suite people, they still have to do work, but they'd rather do the people leading and strategic work. But like we talked about before, whether you're a C-suite or an intern, we all have busy work. There's gonna be busy work you have to do. Can AI remove that for you to redefine your role?
Yeah. Well, and I think about two things come to mind. I look at my 20-year-old daughter, right? And she's looking to go into post-secondary. And again, I'm kind of going, well, let's figure out what you want to. She's not sure what she wants to do. I'm almost to the point where I'm going like, I'll pay you to stay home and just learn as much as you can about AI on your own time using the tools that are available. And I think she'd be further ahead than she would be going to sit in a classroom for 4 years. But I also think the other thing that comes to mind is you always walk through the OpenAI roadmap and the 5 stages, and it's chatbots and it's reasoners and agents. When you get to level 5, which is artificial general intelligence, an organization that can run completely by AI. Well, what does the C-suite look like? Is that still humans? Is it one individual? Is it a group of individuals? Or is it the government? Like who's running an organization that is completely being run by AI?
Well, I'm curious to see what these full stack AI companies, how they will now position themselves, right? I would assume many of them, just because of precedence, they'll have like a founder, a CEO, right? Like that. But I would imagine some of the more innovative ones are even looking at that like organizational hierarchy and be like, why do we need to abide by this? Yes, there needs to be some sort of leadership, but that doesn't mean we have to like abide by this exact same thing. We have AI now that can do different things. Why don't we redefine how a company is actually run? And there's nothing preventing you from doing that.
What happens if AI actually gets greedy like humans and all of a sudden profits mean more to the AI management than anything else? And all of a sudden now you've got these AI C-suite leaders going, well, I'm going to keep the profits for myself and get rid of the human.
So, oh, so that actually thought of another thing to me is like, one is what does an AI actually require any material wealth? Like it, right? It's like, what do I need what do I need to survive? And what do I actually need for, do I really need wealth? There's a certain thing that I want to do. But also when you talk about that, this is where the real techno optimists are thinking is like, hey, AI has the ability to solve so many problems, hunger, warmth, like all the basic human
Disease.
necessity needs, right? If it's so efficient to solve those needs, then is it potential that the human requirement for stuff changes, and this probably over decades, to something completely different when all your needs are taken care of, right? It's like, yes, there will always be people who will want better things, more so for different reasons, whatever those are. But if you were to take care of, AI has enabled the economy to be able to take care of all the citizens to all the basic necessities. Where does the where does people like what's the thing that people would want to do? Like what's the are you transitioning so like, hey, now we want to whether explore more into space, explore into different like research capabilities. Like, what does that even look like? And that's more of the really techno optimist thing. But when you talk about companies, it's like, what does that look like for a company? If the requirements of certain things are no longer there and you're trying to do something else. I don't know, for the benefit of something.
Yeah, no, it's it'll be interesting to see how things create. But I would encourage people. And again, I am no history buff whatsoever. I mean, I've got a solid high school education as my background. Um, but I would encourage people to take a look back at some of the historical things that have happened, because again, people think that the way things, like, even go back 25 years. I'm old enough to see that transition from, accountants doing their accounting with paper and pencil to computers, to the advancement in technology, to when there was travel agents in the mall and that's how you booked your travel, to, now booking things online, and start to see how things transition, and think about, with AI available for running companies and C-suite and management, what is that going to look like over the next 10 or 20 years? And the changes are going to kind of take place. And I think it's going to be pretty significant.
Well, what you just said to me also is a change because you said, well, I have a solid high school education. I'm like, to me, I'm like, that doesn't mean anything to me anymore. I was like, well, everybody has access to every single education that you have. The only thing that you maybe didn't do is you took the process to learn it, but I'm like, you have it in your pocket, right? You have, if you wanted to, go get yourself a quote unquote Harvard education on whatever topic, teach yourself that. You have an AI companion that could do all these different things, which then impacts, for the longest time for me, it was really interesting where it's like, hey, you needed a degree. Like the requirement was, hey, you have to have a master's or bachelor's or whatever. But I don't know if you started looking at all the job descriptions recently. There is less and less requirement of that. And I think people are realizing, like, wait a second. And this is not devaluing post-secondary education. It's also things like, well, anybody can learn anything. You do not necessarily have to go the 4 years. And I'm sure a lot of educators are like, no, you still need to. I'm like, question, do you? Like, question. We are in the age of YouTube Academy, and this is coming from somebody who has an MBA, who got pro say, but like you have a YouTube Academy, like you could learn about anything on YouTube. You have Coursera, you have Udemy, you have AI. What is preventing really anyone from getting anything in terms of learning, right? Because I remember my post-secondary and then grad activities. I was like, yeah, I could probably learn all the technical stuff using AI. The only thing that kind of separated it was more about like, hey, the projects and the people. But the distinction is, and I spent all this money, but I'm like, could I have been where I am today without it? That's debatable, right? So, yeah, in terms of like, and but then relating back to the definition of companies and roles, again, changes too, because when you think CEO, you probably think, oh, this dude, but like this person, right? The CEO has higher education, has done all these things, but I'm like, what's preventing this person from, I don't know, somewhere in the South in the United States from developing anything because they have the tools capable right now?
No, and I think, and that's the thing. I think when you when you take a look at it, it still goes back. Like what I find with education, I go back to my daughter's comment about encouraging it. I think education system is great for teaching people how to learn critical thinking. We've talked about in the past, um, motivation, because you know, you can have as many degrees as you want if you're unmotivated, if you're lazy, it ain't going to make a difference, right? And so I think it's trying to encourage people to have some drive, have some determination, have wanting to contribute back to society or contribute to an organization. I think that's what's going to help people rise in that C-suite and be able to, again, take a look at things like AI technology and accept it, learn about it so that you can figure out how you can manage it. And I think that's going to be the C-suite in the future, is that it's going to be those people that can figure out how to use these tools, and not be threatened by them, but use them to the mission of whatever, the vision of whatever that organization is, whether it's a not-for-profit or whether it's a for-profit organization. I think that that's going to have a bigger impact on a C-suite, you know, in the future.
So, couple questions for your business too, right? So, what are some uniquely human capabilities that would remain indispensable, especially in your business? Number two, what are some governance, accountability, emotional costs that come with if AI was leading things like an earnings call or decision making? And maybe AI makes better decisions. You know, we've talked about the mayor, the person who ran for mayor in Wyoming said their entire decision making would be done by AI. And just looking at our politicians today, it's like, you know, half that stuff probably AI could probably do a better job of it too. And then finally, would an AI-led organization hinder or accelerate the development of the next generation of leaders? Learn more about future AI business trends by watching these videos here. Enjoy today's episode? Want to learn how AI can impact your business? Then please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.